Today we are going to pass the theme about how to teach grammar. Subject: methods of teaching English language. Instructor: Gulžan Ажибаева. Okay, before we start teaching how to teach grammar, let's start with the objectives and aims. Let's start with official language. Цели: сформировать у студента представление о планировании и реализации образовательного процесса по обучению грамматики в соответствии с потребностями, достижениями учащихся по современным научно обоснованным технологиям обучения. Второе. Научить владению способами решения методических проблем и применению технологий оценивания качества обучения в проведении различных форм занятий по грамматике. Третье. Формировать способность осуществлять педагогическую деятельность с использованием интерактивных форм и методов обучения по грамматике. Результаты обучения по данной теме. По итогам освоения данной темы студент будет знать методы, приемы, способы обучения грамматики, функции, формы, виды, средства и объекты контроля в обучении грамматики. Умеет применять современные методы, инновационные мультимедийные технологии в проведении различных форм занятий по обучению грамматики и владеет навыками оценивания уроков грамматики. Okay, let's start. Teaching grammar. The length of the lesson, 50 minutes. Setting: or state university, faculty of both languages and cultures. As I have already said, the objectives of this lesson are: students will identify the purpose of teaching grammar, use teaching grammar techniques and strategies, analyze activities, create lesson plan for teaching grammar. Let's start with the first slide. Grammar is a system of organizing a language in a complete sentences. It recognizes how words and phrases fit together. First of all, before we start teaching grammar, we have to identify the purposes of teaching grammar, of why we should teach grammar. First of all, there are some purposes and reasons. The first one, the learner expectation arguments. These mean that the learner or student needs and expects grammar. The rule of war argument. This means that grammar offers the teacher more structured system. The discrete item argument. This means that these categories make language digestible. If to speak about curriculum, we all know that teaching grammar is included to the curriculum and it should be included to the curriculum system. Sentence machine arguments. These mean that memorization of individual phrases, for example, or grammar enables us to generate new sentences. The fine-tuning argument. The grammar serves as a corrective method against ambiguities. And advanced organizer argument. This means that noticing a prerequisite for acquisition, or it serves as a kind of advanced organizer for the acquisition. These were about reasons and purposes of teaching grammar. Okay, before we start teaching grammar, let's start with the preparing to teach. Before we start teaching grammar, we have to know who our students are. You should also know what they want and what they need from a teacher or from you. For example, if you are teaching elementary school kids, you might focus on basic grammar rules that is easy to grasp. And if your learners are adults, they can be more motivated and they might need an immediate other language skills. It depends on how student or learner process the information in most effective way. There are some learning styles. They are visual learning. These learners prefer reading and want to see what they are learning. The next one is auditory learning. These learners prefer to listen to instructions, and conversations and interactions are effective ways of teaching the learning style. Tactile learning. These learners prefer to touch and manipulate objects in order to learn about something. And kinesthetic learning. These learners move around a lot and benefit from getting up from desk frequently. Okay, the next slide is about refreshing your understanding about grammar. If you are sure that you know grammar really well, nevertheless you have to refresh your grammar rule, your grammar understanding before you start teaching. You might choose the use of textbook as a guide for teaching. Step 4, choosing a teaching approach. There are several methods, approaches, techniques for teaching grammar. The most widespread are inductive and deductive. If you want to explain grammar quickly, then you have to use deductive approach. The deductive approach of teaching grammar focuses on teaching grammar rules and then giving examples of that rule. It can be useful if you want to quickly explain grammar. It may be more useful with adult students. And you have to describe the rules with the simplicity. You have to boil down the grammatical rules to the simple terms so that the student can easily understand. The approach is inductive. It is the contradictory to the previous approach, to the deductive approach. This is inductive approach. The inductive approach allows students to discover how language and grammar works. Students learn grammar by making connections with their pre-existing, with their background knowledge of grammar rules. And for example, students learning English as a second language, yes, they will learn to link English grammar rules to their native languages. Okay, good. Before, we were talking about inductive and deductive approaches. There are also other variety of methods. For example, functional approach, teaching grammar through text, stories, and songs, and diagramming a sentence. These methods are also very useful and effective in teaching grammar. Functional approach gives the student opportunity to communicate. If to speak about auditory learners, yes, they prefer learning grammar through text, stories, and the songs. And if to speak about diagramming sentence, here we can identify the subject, the verb, and other items of the sentence. And in this case, we have to teach grammar in a proper way. Step number 5. We give quizzes that test students' understanding. From time to time, periodically, you have to assess your students' understanding of grammar rules. This will give them chance to put their knowledge to the test. This also gives you a chance to see how well they are learning the concept, and you will also see if concepts are confusing the students. From time to time, periodically, please assess your students with quizzes, tests, different assignments, and etc. And also step, give students plenty of time to practice. After explaining grammar rule or kind of grammar item, you have to give your students plenty of time to put their grammar knowledge to use. The point of learning grammar is to improve communication, yes? So that is why give them a chance to put their knowledge into the use and give your students the opportunity to practice frequently. It means that the aim, the purpose of grammar is to make students be able to communicate effectively. So that is why please give them a chance to practice frequently. Step number 7. Make the instructions appropriate for your students. It means that it is very important to take into consideration the level, the interest, and the styles of your learners, yes? If you tailor your instruction to their level, they will be more invested in learning grammar. And this will also reduce frustration and confusion for both the students and yourself. Your instruction should be clear to the oldest students. Step 8. Plan games and interesting activities. As we know, in order to be more effective in teaching grammar, grammar can be a very dry subject without different kind of plays, games, activities. So teacher have to engage the students effectively via different games, conversation scenarios, and other activities, and appropriate and fun for the students. It is one of the finishing steps. Correct students in a positive way. Do not discourage a student by correcting them immediately and in a negative way that will reduce their desire to speak. And instead, correct errors by continuing the conversation and asking questions using the correct grammar. For example, if your student says you, "I catch the ball," yes, you can answer or correct this mistake. You mean you caught the ball, yes, and continue the conversation with a gentle correction and added question or comment. Okay, now we have all passed what is teaching grammar, what is purposes, what kind of approaches, methods did we use, yes, or can we use in order to teach grammar. And I want to ask you these questions. Did you get all the information? What kind of approach do you take when teaching grammar? That is the first question. The second one, what assumptions do you make about teaching grammar? The third one, what kind of activities do you use in class while teaching grammar? And the last one, what's been effective and ineffective in teaching grammar? Okay, students, these questions are for you to write a short essay or writing for answering these questions. That will be your home assignment. And also, please, for the next lesson, get ready to create a lesson plan for teaching grammar. And next lesson we will discuss about the previous assignments. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.